Time for my next guest on the Wyn Thomas File, and that is Annette Purdey Pugh and her book Murder at the Rosings. How are you today, okay?
I'm fine, thank you.
So, Murder at the Rosings, is that a kind of a follow-up to Pride and Prejudice, would you say?
It is, yes. I've always been a fan of Pride and Prejudice, and I happened one day I was rewatching the BBC series with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely.
Yeah.
And it suddenly occurred to me that there was the perfect sort of plot for a murder mystery contained in that. With Mr. Collins as a natural villain in a way. A lot of people, well, not a very nice character, and Mr. Bennet was the sort of a natural person who might have a motive to murder him, a suspect. So I suddenly thought, it'd be fun to write this sort of like a sequel, not a sequel, but a novel following on a few years after Pride and Prejudice, with some of the perhaps the lesser characters. So the Mr. Bennet, I suppose, isn't particularly a lesser character, but they're the people you don't sort of hear so much about in the novel itself.
So, talking of characters, let's look at some characters with you during the interview, which will also explain where we're going, okay? So, Robert Archer, he's a constable, and Sir John Bright is the local magistrate. They kind of team up to solve this murder, don't they?
Yes, they do, because there wasn't such a thing as a police force, and I've set it in 1806, which would be about the sort of time that Jane Austen would have been writing, and that they didn't have a national police force in any sense in those days. That didn't come until maybe towards the middle of the 19th century. So they had to stand in as the detectives, and in a way, I envisage them as rather the sort of Georgian equivalent of Morse and Lewis, perhaps. As I wanted to sort of pay tribute to them, and that they do their investigating, and then they go to the pub and they talk about the events of the day.
I was thinking more of
that's how I see them.
I was thinking more of Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings, but never mind. It's all right. So then there's Lady Catherine. Now, she doesn't come across a very nice person, does she?
Well, no, she doesn't. But I think in the book, she, obviously in Jane, not very nice at all. But I think I started off in sort of deciding to make her rather a figure of fun. I was, I don't know, I just thought, rather a caricature. And then as I carried on writing, I think she becomes a bit more human. Jane Austen says she's always very, likes to manage people, and she likes to advise on best, she advises poor Charlotte on the best way to arrange her furniture and things like that. So I thought you probably would want to arrange her own household in the same way. And so I do sort of, she comes across as someone that the staff all quite like working for her. They say she's a fair mistress to work for, and she does look after them. So I think she would sort of try to get everything as best organised as she can in her own house as well. So I think she's a bit of everything, I think.
No, Annette, we're not giving too much.
You learn a bit more about her in this novel.
So, Annette, I'm not giving too much away because it is on the back of the book, but we found Mr. Collins found stabbed to death in the garden, and then and then the prime suspect becomes Mr. Bennet. So it's on the back of the book. So we're not giving too much away by saying that, okay?
Yes.
Bennet and Collins argue over entails. Tell us what they are, please.
Yes, well, Mr. Bennet's property in Hertfordshire is because I think Mr. Collins is his cousin or a cousin. We're not told the exact relationship, but because Mr. Bennet has inherited this property, but it is entailed to the male line, which means that when he dies, it passes to the nearest male relative, which, of course, happens to be Mr. Collins, because Mr. Bennet only has 5 girls, which is the source of all the problems in Pride and Prejudice, really. So Mr. Collins is the one who stands to inherit Mr. Bennet's estate when he dies, which does, in a way, if he could get rid of Mr. Collins, that's the way the detectives look at it in a way when they consider him as the murderer, then it could be that he can manage to sort of do a bit of legal wrangling, and then the property will revert to his family, because Mr. Collins only has girls as well. So in my book. So that's why they suspect Mr. Bennet. Everything seems to point to him, I think.
So obviously then, so those two, Archer and Bright, go ahead to start investigating the crime. There's some lovely interviews with the staff of both households, but they are very loyal people, aren't they?
There are, yes. There are a lot of. I had a lot of fun, really, sort of inventing all these members of staff, because, of course, we don't hear about them in Jane Austen. It was, I don't know, I just quite enjoyed making up the various people in the two households.
Two of those are Michael Flannery and Richard Barker, sorry. I was going to get that wrong. Richard Barker. And they, of course, they're kind of footmen and head footmen, aren't they? They come across as devious characters. Do you mean to do that?
Yeah, Michael Flannery is the groom, and he's a poacher, basically. And he does take advantage of, but he's not particularly sort of criminal-minded. But he does, of course, he does have an effect upon I don't want to give too much away, but he does have an effect upon Robert Archer's designs on this young lady that he's interested in.
Yeah.
Richard Barker and John, the other footman, they are fairly villainous. They have a lot of underhand things going on in the house.
So it all comes together. There's a lot of canoodling going on downstairs then, in a way, doesn't it? Yes?
Yeah, yes.
And then, well, the lady also you're talking about, who was the centre of attention by those two, is also Miss Smith, who we won't say what happens to her in the end, but obviously she's part of the romantic side of things as well.
Yeah, she's the young lady that poor Robert Archer is rather a naive character.
Yeah.
He hasn't really lived anywhere apart from in the countryside. He has a sort of he makes a country living as a wheelwright, and he's quite innocent, really, I think. And he decides he sees this young lady he quite fancies, and he decides he's going to try and sort of get to know her. But he's very shy, and he doesn't really know how to go about it.
So we shall say, does he get the girl in the end? We'd have to read the book to find that out.
I'm not going to say, yes. Yeah. People will have to read it to find out.
Two other people who are downstairs is Margaret and little Alice. Tell me a little bit about them without giving too much away.
Yes, the two. Yes, well, Margaret is crucial to this story. She's what they call a between maid, who I wasn't really sure what that was before I sort of researched it, but it's apparently you have sort of two classes of servants. There's a sort of upstairs servants and the downstairs ones who are never seen. They're just slaving away in the kitchen and things like that. But the between maid goes between the two, so
that's what
she does. She has some duties above stairs and some below stairs, and she's also rather in the book. She's rather, well, not quite, she's become sort of slightly mentally not quite all there, going to an accident that happened. So she's rather vulnerable to manipulation by various people. And little Alice?
Yes.
Yes, Alice is the little maid, the little maid at the parsonage, who...
She comes over a little bit naive as well, doesn't she? Yeah.
She's been told Charlotte, who married Mr. Collins in Pride and Prejudice, is a sort of kind lady, and she's taken her out of the poorhouse to work for them. And she's just not really into the job yet. She hasn't been there very long.
Now, Mrs. Jenkinson is Anne's companion, much older than her.
Yes.
She comes into play quite extensively in the novel as well. And also then there's always something called the meeting in the dark of the three ladies. What happens then? We shall leave that alone for the time being, okay? 'Cause that's the bit that really puts the crunch on the novel, doesn't it? Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Mrs. Jenkinson is, she's mentioned in Pride and Prejudice, obviously, as an elderly lady who's Anne's companion. I sort of give a bit more of a background to her, really. But she is very old by the time this book begins, because she was quite old in the original one. So, she does. She also has a crucial role to play, which I won't mention too much.
No, indeed, no. So that's where we leave things then, okay? So somebody to pick this book up and read it, which is in my hand now. And we shall leave that go for now. So the book is Murder at the Roslins, and that is Annette Purdey Pugh. And that's lovely indeed. Thanks so much for being my guest today. And the book, of course, is published by Honno in Aberystwyth. Lovely stuff indeed. Thanks for being my guest today.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.